I'd like to give you an update as to where things stand with respect to the state budget. While we are still very much struggling with the impact of the recession, the past few weeks have seen some good economic news for our state. We've added 95,000 jobs to the economy in February, and our revenues are $2 billion above projection. This shows that a recovery is starting to take hold, but we know that we have a long road ahead of us before we can say that we are in the clear. That means that our efforts to close the remainder of the budget deficit must be calibrated to avoid disrupting that recovery. We've already approved $14 billion in solutions. With respect to the next step, several things are clear. First of all, there are no votes for an all-cuts approach to the budget. There's virtually no support for that course amongst Republicans who refuse to vote for many of the spending cuts contained in the governor's budget that we've already acted on. Talking about an all-cuts approach is, in essence, an exercise in futility. To be clear, Republicans represent 35% of the seats in the state assembly, yet when the time came to act on the cuts proposed, they only cast 7% of the votes to actually take advantage of the cuts that were necessary. Second, it's clear that the people of California need to be engaged in the process, and in the coming weeks, Assembly Democrats will travel the state to discuss budget priorities. Third, it's clear that Republican legislators have acted irresponsibly throughout this process, and they need to now step up and act like responsible leaders. To that end, I call on my Republican colleagues to produce a comprehensive budget plan by the end of this month that will help close the remaining deficit. It is simply unacceptable that they've refused to vote for cuts, they've refused to vote for revenues, or for reforms that will help close the deficit. They have the responsibility to govern, not sit on their hands and prevent us from dealing with this crisis. If they don't like our approach, they need to put forward their own plan in the full view of the public, and we will ensure that their plan is fully vetted. Failing that, they have an obligation to work with us to find new revenues to close our deficit. Because the June special election is no longer an option, the Assembly will be seeking new revenues through a 2/3 vote in the legislature to help close the remainder of the deficit by June 15th. Over the next few weeks, Assembly Democrats are going to take our case to the people. We're going to hold budget summits to talk about our priorities and to make clear to the people of California that revenues are essential if we're going to protect schools from billions of dollars in additional cuts, protect public safety by keeping cops on the streets and fire stations open, protect local governments who are already facing drastic budget shortfalls, and most importantly, prevent our recovery from being disrupted by a budget solution that causes thousands of jobs to be lost for teachers, cops, firefighters, and other Californians. We are just over 2 months away from the June 15th deadline. I believe we can and should have an honest debate about our state's priorities. Republican legislators need to live up to their responsibility and engage in the process as well, either by working with us or by producing their own plan that solves the crisis. We have just over 60 days to close the remainder of the deficit in a way that protects jobs and our economic recovery. Closing this deficit is the responsibility of every single member of the legislature, and we will meet that responsibility.